And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here tonight with my usual co-host, Carlos. How are you doing, Carlos? On a Thursday evening, we waited this week to record, but probably that was a good choice. Yes.
Absolutely worth it. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But James, I'm doing fantastic. It's Thursday night, which means I don't have any class tomorrow, which means I went to happy hour at El Centro. It's this margarita, or it's a Mexican place down the road. $7 margaritas. It's fantastic. Highly recommend if you're ever in DC. I'm feeling great. Had some good quesadillas, and I'm ready to talk about your Tampa Bay Rowdies. James, what's going on in your life? What's going on down in the beautiful state of Florida?
Yeah, well, there appears to be actually quite a bit of hype going around, Carlos. I don't know how much of it is getting up to the DC way, but yeah, we are getting a lot of stuff online. People appear to be kind of losing their minds, let's say. I think that we're gonna start some type of fire or party or dance, maybe a fire dance party. I really don't know, but there's a lot going on. So
sounds dangerous.
It could be dangerous at this point. We're not actually sure, folks. But this week there is so much stuff related to the Rowdies. Carlos, first of all, okay, let's get into it. The USL Championship is 4 weeks away. That's crazy. That is absurd in and of itself.
Almost there.
So this week we are starting on our previews. Now, you and I were only supposed to start on the previews with a little bit of news, a little bit of Rowdies news. I had one Rowdies signing on the dock until I guess just yesterday, and then I had a couple of other maybe bits of USL news if we get to that, and we do our previews.
We had a little bit of talk about, but that changed in the past couple of days, didn't it? No, I mean, it's been a weird time. I mean, from unconfirmed news that seems semi-confirmed at this point to late in the game transfers, let's say. It's a strange time to be talking about transfers, I think, but here we are, James.
Yeah, I agree that it is a strange time, but we've got to get into all of that. So I will say we are going to start our previews. I think it'll be a little bit easier this week just because of the teams that we're covering. So that's fair enough. We've broken each conference into 2 tiers. It could have been 3, but we only have 4 weeks, so we broke it into 2. And that's how we're going to get through it. But this week, eventually, we will get to the tier 2 teams of the Eastern Conference. Beforehand, obviously, we have a lot of stuff to get to. Like we already said, that's related to the Rowdies. Before all of that, though, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, of course, and subscribe to us on any major podcast platform, whichever one you use. And of course, please follow us as well on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you are at RBLR Sports. Now, Carlos, let's start with the first piece of Rowdies news, the one that was the only thing that I had actually written down. Yeah, I didn't even remember to put down the preseason games as you mentioned, but the Rowdies have made a signing for the roster. Let's discuss that.
His name is none other than Nick Moon, another guy from San Diego. Seems like we're just kind of, picking off the remains of this poor club. Unfortunately, rip San Diego loyal SC. But we have another one. His name's Nick Moon, fantastic player. He earned 39 starts and 47 appearances with San Diego. And he scored 3 goals and 6 assists in his in his pretty sizable career there. He had 47 appearances there, 3 goals, 6 assists. Seems to be kind of a winger. Can play defensive, but seems to kind of get up the field as well.
Yeah.
Similar to another player that we'll talk about here in just a second. It seems like a really fantastic pickup. He has great chemistry, I assume, with another guy from San Diego named Blake Bodley. So it's pretty cool to bring those 2 guys kind of down here in a pair. I'm sure we can get a lot of production out of them. And San Diego fans seem to be thrilled that he is going to, continue playing. They were very happy that he made a move.
Yeah.
They were kind of all in the Rowdies mentions the past few days after that signing. Very happy for him, it looks like. So seems like a very loved player. Which is always good to know when you're a fan of a team, seeing this player's fans of the former team kind of, sending all these great messages. That's a really, really good sign. I'm always happy to see that. So I'm happy. I think this will be a great pickup. I'm really looking forward to see what he can do, especially in light of the news that we'll talk about here in just a second. Seems like his role could be much larger than we might have thought. But yeah, Nick Moon, fantastic name. by the way. So shout out him. Shout out the front office for going out and making a big pickup, I'd say. Again, pretty late in the offseason.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the entire San Diego Loyal team, as you said, has been picked apart at this point, but we have definitely got two of the better players. I think that Nick Moon has a very big reputation in this league. I will not say that I remember, this or that about him that stands out more. I think that if you want a good tactical breakdown of him, then I would just turn you to John Morrissey at USL Tactics. He is the guru for all of that, but I just have not watched enough San Diego to say that I can be like, yeah, Nick Moon, he's this guy, he's that guy. So, yeah, go turn on, well, I guess it would be on Twitter as opposed to anywhere else. But
Yeah.
either way, he speaks about Nick Moon and the role that he played for San Diego. That is John Morrissey. So, yeah, try and find that if you are interested in more of
Yeah.
his tactical output. But like you said, I think he is more attacking in terms of his wing play.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, while we brought in what is probably a pretty good attacking piece,
Yeah.
we'll
Great
see
piece.
what his defensive chops are, because there's something else on the docket here.
The other thing, the something else, which I'm sure everybody who is listening to this podcast knows of by now, is that the Rowdies have also made some other transfer news in getting Connor Antley out of the club and over to DC United, obviously in Major League Soccer. Pretty cool for me because I'll get to see him play a bit
Yep.
this season in just a few weeks. I'm going to go to that opening game. I'm forgetting who it's against, but hopefully he can get some playing time in there. I don't imagine he'll play a ton. He's just coming in. It's again, very, very late in the preseason, especially for MLS squads who seasons start in the end of February. So this is a really interesting pickup. DC United is well into their preseason. They had a whole preseason trip in Saudi Arabia already at this point, so they're pretty deep into everything. And of course, talking about DC United, more importantly, we have to talk about Tampa Bay Rowdies and kind of how this affects our squad.
Yeah.
Again, full congratulations to Connor Antley. It's great to see him kind of scale the pyramid of U.S. soccer in his very decorated career already. So pretty cool. I don't think DC United fans know the kind of player that they just got. DC United has been kind of in this lull in terms of spending. They don't really spend a lot. They're not getting great results on the field in recent seasons. So I think fans of theirs were a little skeptical when they saw Connor Antley from Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think they were looking for a big pickup, and I think they just don't know who they picked up yet. They picked up a beast. So Connor Antley is going to do great over there. I'm sure of that. And I'm looking forward to him proving everybody who is a little skeptical wrong and showing them why DC United went out and picked up this fantastic defensive wing back from our beloved Tampa Bay Rowdies. But again, that does mean that a player like Nick Moon is probably going to have to take up a bigger role than we might have expected when we heard that he got signed to the squad. When Nick Moon came in, you would have thought that Connor Antley might have probably would have been the starter in whatever system we're going to run. If they used him as a wing back, obviously, Nick Moon might have rode the bench a bit. Maybe he would have started on the other side. But it seems pretty clear to me that Nick Moon is going to have a bigger role, whether that's starting, whether that's playing tons of minutes and, getting subbed off a little early. I don't know. We don't really know what the system's going to look like, but I think it's clear that, he's going to have a pretty big role. And I think it's interesting that these signings these pieces of news kind of came back to back. Maybe that's something that the Rowdies were holding off on with Connor Antley until they were able to secure a guy like Nick Moon to come in and make sure they have somebody to replace Antley. I don't know. I'm just, thinking out loud at this point, but interesting. We're getting rid of a player at the wing spot, bringing in a player at the wing spot. But it's not just any player. It's Connor Antley, who's been a fantastic, and just consistent piece of this Rowdy squad for the past 3 seasons. So Nick Moon has big shoes to fill. He seems like a fantastic player, though, and I'm pretty confident and pretty excited to see what he can do. But again, the pretty big loss for the Rowdies at this point in the offseason, in the preseason now, I guess, to lose Connor Antley February, mid-February when the season starts again, like you said, in just 4 weeks. So I think that gives Nick Moon plenty of time to acclimate to this club, though, figure out what his role is going to be. And I'm not really concerned in any way, and more so just kind of intrigued by how this will play out.
Yeah, I think that as you already stated, congratulations to Connor Antley. He deserves this. I think that everyone who's a fan of the Tampa Bay Rowdies is going to be able to say that he deserves this. He's definitely been one of our more consistent players over the past, 3 years now? 3, 4 years? I forget
Yeah,
exactly.
it's 3 seasons.
3 seasons, yeah. So, I either way, I think that what DC United now, as you said, they're not, the highest spending team, so maybe they're going out and they're saying, "We need to get somebody who fills this profile," and the profile is going to be someone who can play a couple of different spots. I think that's the same thing that happened with Lawrence White when we sold him to MLS previously. Here with Connor Antley, and they wrote the word transferred in the press release, but this certainly has to be a sale because he was under contract for this year. He was listed as under contract for this year. We don't have any of the details like that. I guess there could be some weird world in which this wasn't, in which the DC United didn't have to buy out his contract. I don't know what that would be, but I'm pretty sure that the Rowdies would have received some type of compensation. So that's kind of cool. But in the meantime, yes, obviously we lose out on Connor Antley and the type of profile that he presented for DC United, something that they, I'm sure, did their homework on here. He fits the bill as a player who does have, he's not going to break the bank for them because he's coming from USL where he's more than likely making a lower salary than he would in MLS. But at the same time, he is able to cover multiple different roles. We've seen him play as a center back. We've seen him play as a right back. We've seen him play as a right wing back, just as you've been mentioning, Carlos. That was mostly where I think we saw him play his absolute best. What we also saw from him is that he's very comfortable with the ball. He does not mind carrying it. He does not mind trying to whip in a cross. And, we've seen a lot of great whipped in crosses from both Connor Antley and, on the left side over to where he would be standing at the back post at times. So, yeah, I mean, he's a very smart player. And the other thing, this was something that I was going to bring up, and then John Morrissey on Twitter brought it up. So I don't want to say I'm stealing his thunder, but I do want to say that I feel more confident saying it now. But he also has the recovery speed if the Rowdies need it. If ever we saw a player lose a ball or, just in a bad situation, Connor Antley has the speed to get back and try and, if you miss the guy the first time you go in for a tackle, that happens every so often in soccer, certainly. But maybe if you're quick enough, you can get back and prevent him from getting a good shot off at least. Connor Antley definitely has that. And the only thing that makes me worried, let's say, quote unquote, is right now I don't see that our back line at the moment has a ton of speed to it. I think Connor Antley was far and away the fastest person that was on the defensive core for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And I'm interested to see if there is an acquisition following his almost certain sale, or if they're going to go with what we have right now and try and build a system that we don't have to worry about it as much. I mean, you always have to worry about speed at some point over the course of a game or a season, but either way, that is the only thing that I would have any concerns over. So again, Connor Antley, he definitely deserves this. I really think that I think that the number of signings from USL to MLS this season is actually like extremely positive for this league, because for so many years, I think MLS teams have been loath to make that move. They have really not wanted to sign anybody from USL for I've heard various different reasons, including like GMs at clubs just thinking, there's no way they could have missed a player who ended up being so good in USL that he was good enough for MLS. Kind of, I guess that sounds more like an ego thing. That's all speculation on my part, because this is stuff that I've heard through, articles and whatever, different podcasts. But now this offseason, I really think there has been a lot of movement between USL to MLS, and I'm happy for all of the guys who made that move. It's unfortunate for our league, but the other thing is everyone in USL, everyone who is a fan of a USL team, obviously we know that we have good enough people going and getting good enough talents that it will be replaced. And the only thing that I can hope for with Connor Antley going out the door is that we take that money and we go and get somebody who just does exactly what he does. And I'll go to a tweet from the USL Championship themselves. After finding success in USL League 2 and USL League 1, then the championship, Connor Antley's inspiring journey is taking him to DC United. There's no doubt in my mind that there is somebody who is either a USL 2 to USL League 1 type of player, just like Connor Antley, or somebody who has already made that path and is somewhere else in USL. I'm sure that we could go and get somebody who is just like him and able to fill in just the same way. So
Yeah.
I'm just ready. If that does happen, I'm ready to see who that is. And otherwise, we'll see how they turn the back line out this year. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. It's going to be interesting for both possibilities.
Yeah. I'm honestly not particularly concerned, even with, what we have right now, because, um, I'm looking at the potential, what a potential starting 11 could look like. You have your back three and plus the wing backs. You're looking at Guillen, Lasso, probably someone like Jordan Doherty back there, playing as explicitly as a defender.
Right.
Out left, you would have Blake Bodley, who I'll mention him when we cover the preseason games because he had a great, great run. And then now you have Nick Moon on the right, and I think that's really good. I think it's more than just solid. I think that's really good. And you have that Moon Bodley connection already. They played very well together out in San Diego. Guillen's fast, Doherty's fast. I think Antley might have been the fastest out of that bunch for sure. But I think we do have that speed. Obviously, Lasso lacks that a bit, but you need that big guy back there. So I feel pretty good about where we're at right now. I wouldn't mind going out and picking up someone else, of course, to add depth, because I think we're a bit light on depth, especially at the wing
Yeah.
backs. Unless you want to put like Leo Fernandez back there, and a really, ugly situation, if some people are picking up a bunch of injuries or something. You do have Pacific, who we signed from, the CPL. He seems like he could play back there, not back there, quote unquote, like in the wing back slot if he has to. But it seems like he's more of an attacking guy. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with what we have right now. Obviously, the Antley loss is pretty big. He's just a consistent guy, but I think Nick Moon will do very, very well in whatever system we manage to cook up. But if we're talking about like sticking with what we've had, going into this season, I would imagine Nick Moon would fit in very, very nicely into the system we've been playing, last season. And the season before that, he would be really, really good, and he will be really good in that position. And I'm pretty, pretty excited to see what all of that kind of comes together and looks like with Arteaga, with Jennings, with Fernandez, Dennis, Hilton, and some of the guys that might not be the starting type of players, like Crisostomo. He looks really good. He looks pretty exciting. Zach Aravo, we haven't really talked much about him this offseason, but he's going to be back. We look really good depth-wise in some of the other positions. The only thing would be just the wing back spots for me. I'd like to get like maybe one more piece for depth out there. But I like how we're looking, James. I do think we're looking pretty good in terms of where we are as a roster right now. I'm not imagining we go out and pick up a ton of other players, but who knows? Maybe we sign one of the trialists or something that we had playing during the preseason. We'll get to that in just a second. But is there anything else we want to say on these transfers before we move on to the next bit I have here jotted down in my notes?
No, I think that we have covered them as best we can. And, especially in relation to the roster, because right now it's just, as you said, we don't know exactly what the final roster is going to be for this team. When we have
Yeah.
a little bit more and maybe the trialists have come and gone out of our preseason lineups, we will
Yeah.
be able to say this is what the most likely starting 11 is. I think at that point, that's going to be our best chance for our best speculation. But the only last thing, we've already said it, awesome stuff for Connor Antley, and we wish him all the best.
Absolutely. Okay. Before we talk about the preseason games briefly, there's, I would argue, an even more important piece of news.
There's
than the
something
preseason
going
games.
off on the internet right now. Going off.
The people are rowdy. I don't know. The people are restless. They've been asking for this for a very long time. I've never really met anybody who's been anti this. And this is the hooped sleeves that they want to bring back. People have been asking for this forever. The last time I think we had that was maybe 2013, maybe that 2013 season. They had like that the green, and like the home jersey was that green base like in the middle, and then they would have the hoop sleeves on the side with the big Hard Rock logo in the middle. Same thing was the away one. It was white in the middle and then the hoop sleeves. So it's been 10 years, maybe a little bit more than that, since we've had that. This hasn't really been officially confirmed by your Tampa Bay Rowdies, but it's been something that's been kind of being teased at throughout the week. And then it's been so teased that it's basically confirmed at this point that like something's coming with this. They've been tweeting out like memes about hoops. They quote tweeted the Lightning jersey reveal, which
Mhm.
includes hoops, and they said hoops on
Also, I think that
sleeves.
one looks pretty good too. I just want to
Yeah, that
say
looks
that.
great. That looks great too. Like, yeah, I like that jersey. But the Rowdies quoted that Lightning tweet and go, "Hoops on sleeves at Tampa Bay Lightning." Now there's an idea. And then later on today, they just tweeted a bunch of pictures of various hoops, including a Rowdies jersey from like the '70s with the hoop
Yeah.
sleeves. And then they tweeted
Somebody's
out
having
this,
fun with the account.
yeah. And they tweeted out this like goofy little video of Leo Fernandez perusing through St. Pete with just a bunch of people telling him, bring back the retro kit, bring back the hoop sleeves, like in various forms. That's all to say, this has been getting talked about, for a long time. People have been asking for it. People have wanted to see this kind of come back. And it looks like we might be seeing this kind of come to fruition finally in some way, shape, or form. What that looks like officially, TBD. There's not really, I don't know. You haven't seen any like leaks or anything like that now. Like,
Yeah.
we'll wait to see what that looks like. Again, I would be like highly, highly surprised if there wasn't hooped sleeves on our jerseys now at this point. It feels like that would just be mean. Like
That
very
would
like
be
blatant.
that would be the biggest troll
Yeah, I
ever
mean,
on like, I
because
would be shocked.
yeah, because it's not even like subtle anymore. Like it's just very blatantly referencing the hooped sleeves, the hoops. Like they're saying the words hooped sleeves, hoops on sleeves, and then at the end of like the teaser with Leo Fernandez, it says like stay tuned. So expect that sometime in the coming days. Maybe when this podcast comes out. I
I
don't know.
hope
Like
I hope when the podcast comes out, what timing that would be.
yeah, I mean it's very possible. So um it seems like good timing. Preseason game is this Saturday, which we'll mention as well in a little bit. If you're a season ticket holder, you should be able to go to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they reveal it at the preseason game, and then it gets showed to the nation. And everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, these are the greatest kits I've ever seen in my life." Um, they have so much potential with like the hooped sleeves idea, and I'm really really excited to see what they can do. Honestly, I think Puma might be able to cook up something better than our former Nike overlords. So I'm pretty excited to see what they have in store on that front. What about you, James? Have you wanted these hoop sleeves back, or am I putting words in your mouth too?
Nope, I am fully on board. I have also been saying this, like you said, for however many years. I'm sure just the same as most people who know that this is a possibility. I am excited for it. I am looking forward to seeing exactly how it turned out. I
Yeah,
can only imagine the execution is good because I really don't know how you make the execution bad. But I'm sure there's some way out there. I just expect
there's
Puma to
definitely a
be
way.
better than that. I expect Puma to know what they're doing here.
Yeah, I could like I'm trying to think of how it would look, and we've played around with like mock jerseys for a while on the Ralph's Mob Discord in the past. I'm pretty confident. I'll just say that. Oh, sorry, I just knocked over my mic. I wonder if it's gonna be like an away jersey, or if like both the home and away jersey are hoop sleeves, and I don't know. Maybe it's like an alternate. I think that's a question. We know that there's gonna be hoop sleeves on a jersey.
Right.
I guess we have to see whether we stick with like this jersey I'm wearing right now, like the normal stripes that we've had, as like the main jersey, and the hoops is like an away jersey or an alternate. But maybe we're spending too much time talking about this. Maybe nobody cares, but I'm pretty excited because I've been
I
wanting this for a while. So
if you've seen anything online, I think the people care.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you know what, Carlos, it's okay. We don't have to talk about this forever because we still have one more Rowdies thing to talk about. Let's move
we
on
definitely could.
to the games here because you
Yeah,
have you have more information about this than I did actually when we started.
I will say if you gave me like the rest of this podcast to just talk about hoop sleeves and like templates and designs I'd like to see, like I could do that. If everybody like if this was a live podcast and like I had like a chat, I'd be like, yo, like, do we want to talk about the preseason games or do we want to talk about hoops? And honestly, I think we might get more hoops in preseason games. But that being said, we'll talk about these preseason games because there's some stuff to break down here. Because February 9th, February 10th, back-to-back days, your Tampa Bay Rowdies had games against first the Philadelphia Union 2, and secondly against Atlanta United.
Not
Um,
to.
not two, yeah. That February 9th game against Philly Union 2 was won 4-1. Of course, fantastic scoreline. Everybody loves that 4-1 scoreline to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. There was goals by Arteaga in the 15th minute. It was a penalty. A goal from Joshua Perez. Pretty interesting to see him get on the score sheet in the preseason. Exciting. Didn't really expect a ton of offensive production from him as a Rowdy, but here we are in the first preseason game and he's scoring, so that's really cool. A try list in the 57th minute. Which one? I don't know. It wasn't live streamed. We have no
We could
clue.
speculate wildly, though. We love doing that, obviously.
We could. There's so many players out there looking for a team still. I could start naming names if you want, but we have no clue. Try list, 57th minute, scored a goal. And
As
finally,
far as I'm aware, I'm just going to say that trial list was probably Michael Essien. That's what I'm going with.
It could be. There's no evidence to the contrary.
Exactly.
So Michael Essien scored a goal in the 57th minute for the Rowdies. And then in the 75th minute, Cal Jennings wrapped up scoring in a 4-1 win for the Rowdies. I think more importantly than all these different people getting on the score sheet, it's good to see Arteaga get his first goal as a penalty.
Yeah.
Good to see Jennings keep up his, scoring streak from last season. But even more interesting for me was that Blake Bodley got 2 assists from the wing spot, 2 great crosses on the Joshua Perez goal and the Cal Jennings goal. So he seems to be in fine form already. His crossing looks to be great. I can't say for sure. I didn't watch the game. I saw like the goals at the end that they posted like the little highlight video for.
Right.
They look like fantastic passes. Point being, he played in a competitive setting. Wasn't like full throttle, but they played against a team that wasn't themselves. Blake Bodley picked up 2 assists. Arteaga got on the score sheet. Perez, Jennings got on the score sheet. That's good. That's all good things. There was tons of trialists playing. The first half, Rowdies 11 included 6 trialists. Jordan Farr, his first action as a Rowdy. Great to see that. Lasso, Guillen, Hilton, and Arteaga made up the rest of the squad. So Lasso and Guillen getting minutes together back there again. Obviously, 2 guys that we'll expect to see playing in the back. Second half, 11 included Brano in goal, with Doherty and Kleeman playing in the back. So I guess that's kind of who you're looking at for your 4 main defenders: Joshua Perez, Blake Bodley, Jennings, and 5 other trialists. You got several, Rowdies getting like good minutes. I'm sure they didn't play everybody because they had to play the next day as well against Atlanta United. But yeah, tons of different Rowdies getting playing time, getting minutes, and interacting with these trialists that we don't know anything about or how they did. So take this result with Michael Essien. Take this result with a grain of salt, James. There's not like a ton to break down from this other than that it's good to see that the Rowdies are playing competitive soccer again against another team, and that several different guys are scoring. And that Blake Bodley, again, that's my most exciting part for me. Blake Bodley is getting involved in the assists. It's fantastic when the wingbacks are getting that involved in the attack, where they're contributing 2 assists. If Blake Bodley is doing that on one side and Nick Moon is doing that on the other side, we could have problems for the USL.
By the way, as a trialist, what better way to put yourself, like, to say you should give me a contract than to score a goal? That's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, I'll just jump around to the Atlanta game the following day on Saturday. Atlanta did win 2-0 in that game. That one was live streamed, so I got to see a bit of that one actually. Again, you don't really learn a ton from these games.
Yeah.
Again, it's mostly about seeing some Rowdies players on the field and playing competitive soccer. Atlanta scored in the 52nd and the 64th minute. It was actually a pretty fun game to watch, I think, in the first half. Again, I'll just run through who played in that first half. It was Jordan Farr in goal, Aaron Guillen and Lasso again playing minutes together in the back. A bunch of trialists, and then Arteaga at striker. So it was Farr, Guillen, Lasso, and Arteaga were the only Rowdies players in that first half that were officially signed to the Rowdies. There's actually some pretty good-looking trialists that had some decent performances out there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we end up signing at least 1 or 2 of those. Number 77 in particular caught my eye. He had some great movement in the attacking midfield area. It had some great looks. So I'm curious to see who he is and if he gets a shot with this squad. Also, Hilton played in that first half. Rowdy second half, again, Brano in goal, Doherty and Kleeman, again, on the back line together. Trialist. Blake Bodley, Joshua Perez, trialist, Arteaga and Jennings. That is good to see because I'm really curious to see how Arteaga and Jennings kind of work out who they are and how they play together up top. I hope they become as dangerous a duo as JJ Williams and Cal Jennings were starting like halfway through last year. If they can figure that out early, we're set and we're going to win the championship and also like the CONCACAF Champions League. So again, take these results with a grain of salt. I think it's important to mention though, because that means the Rowdies are playing competitive soccer again against another team. They're not scrimmaging anymore. We're in the preseason. We're in the thick of it, and we're 4 weeks away from the season. And several different players are playing. People are scoring goals. I guess not against Atlanta United, but people are scoring goals, getting assists, getting real minutes. Jordan Farr is on this squad. That's awesome. Nick Moon didn't play yet, but he also just got signed, so we'll have to see how he does. But if you do want to see him play, I'm sure there'll be a chance this weekend. Okay, James, that's preseason. We talked hoops. We talked about the Connor Antley transfer to DC United. Talked about bringing in this guy, Nick Moon, who just constantly makes me think about that song, Talking to the Moon. Anyway, if you've heard that, you know what I'm talking about. It's time to move on, though. Anything else to wrap up on these preseason games, James? Did you get to see any of the Atlanta game?
No, I did not get to see any of it, so I do not actually have anything to contribute.
There's not much to say. Like
you don't learn preseason
much.
game, fitness, no injuries. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I think with like back-to-back games like that, I'm not surprised that they played a bunch of try lists. Like, you want to get your boys like some minutes, but you also don't want to like strain the body that early in the preseason, or early, quote unquote. But you get my point. Again, some good performances in there from several trialists. I'm curious to see if, in particular, this number 77 gets a call back to keep playing with us for a bit. Okay, we covered a lot there. It was a lot more news than I think we were expecting, James.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's time to move on. But before we do that, James, I'm going to make a quick shameless plug, as per usual. Liking and subscribing is free, James. But if you need some new threads, you can support this podcast by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all the cool designs that have been cooked up over there. Some really fun ones, some ones about hoops and hoops on sleeves. And, it seems to be a topical topic. And if you want one, you can definitely go check that out. Again, at shop.rblrsports.com. Use the promo code COYR for 10% off. Go check it out. Go buy some cool stuff. Go buy some cool stuff for your Galentines, your Palentines, your Valentines. I don't know. It's still Valentine's Day week. You can do that. Go check it out. COYR for 10% off. Okay, James, this is where I'm going to rely on you a bit more because I don't really know a lot about these teams, to be honest, but we're going to jump into it and we're going to talk a little bit about each of these Eastern Conference Tier 2 teams. Kind of the teams that maybe we can say like are on the bubble in some sense. Not teams that we're particularly concerned are challenging for like first place or second place or third place or maybe even fourth place. But teams that could maybe pose a challenge other than Loudoun United. I think the rest of them have, you never really know. So why don't we just jump into it, James? Why don't you kick us off with that first team I just mentioned?
Yes. As I said, we broke the previews into 2 different tiers for each conference. There is the bottom tier and the top tier. In all honesty, it would have been better with a top tier, a bubble tier, and a bottom tier, but we just didn't have the weeks for that, so we're going to do it this way. In our second tier, the fact that we have to do it with 1 and 2, it does kind of leave some room for interpretation. Like, why would a team be in the top tier? Why would a team be in the bottom tier? And there's one team in here that I think really might make me eat my words because they always turn out good, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So here are the teams that I have placed.
Yeah, this was James. Don't get mad at me if you're like a fan of one of these teams. Don't go get mad at James at RBLR James K on Twitter.
I will take it. If there is anybody outside listening, please tell your friends. Obviously, we like to get more listeners, but also if the hate encourages more interaction online, let's go. Bring it on. I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Our tier
James
2
the villain.
teams, our tier 2 teams for the Eastern Conference are, as listed, Loudoun United, Detroit City, the Miami FC, North Carolina FC, Hartford, and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I have put them in tier 2, and we will get through all of those. Not super long, but we will take some time on each of them. The first one, like you said, relatively easy. Loudoun United. I don't think that there is a lot to this team, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It
no.
seems like they are still in a position where they are waiting to get everything sorted out between being a DC United feeder team and maybe not doing that in the future, but we're not too sure, and neither are they. Who can say?
Yeah.
They brought in a couple of players who don't really stand out. They are relatively good players, but they're not going to be names that anybody sees and they're going to go, "Oh no, that guy's here." The
Yeah.
only big player in my mind is Zach Ryan, who scored 10 goals for them last season. But you know, um,
Yeah, he's actually a pretty good player. I'm
yeah,
surprised he's still there. I
and
thought,
that's kind of what that's kind of what I was feeling too. But
yeah,
I guess nobody else came in for him, so he stays at Loudoun United. 10 goals
yeah,
is nothing to sneeze at, but at the
yeah,
same time, it's only so much that he can do when he's probably not getting the best feeder anyway
yeah,
from all of the players that are behind him.
yeah,
There are two better midfielders. Tommy McCabe, as a defensive midfielder who was previously with FC Tulsa, wasn't their
yeah,
most regular player, and Drew Skundrich, who was previously with Colorado Springs. He was actually a Loudoun United player as well before, but he did so well in USL that DC United signed him. So is that somebody that could really turn things around? I don't know. I kind of doubt it just because it's so hard to do as a one person thing. It's a team sport,
yeah,
but I just don't see, unfortunately for people in the Loudoun County area, I don't see that there's a lot on this team that is really going to make them contenders. I hope that someday they and the ownership figure out what the hell they want to do with this possession that they
yeah.
have, this club, this soccer team, and I don't think, unfortunately, that 2024 is going to be that time.
I thought they were going to kind of move away into being more independent from DC United, which was going to be great for the league. Um, and honestly, I don't know. You've never been up there to Loudoun, right? To one
No,
of
I
the
have
games
not.
over there. But yeah, there's no reason to be honest. But it's a cool little stadium in a community that seems to be very prideful of itself. This Loudoun County area. Honestly, if they built like a competitive team, I think they would get a great turnout. You know, by their stand, it's a county, like it's not DC. It's kind of far out there. Um, but I think they could easily pick up like 3 or 4,000 people, like if they were semi-competitive,
Yeah.
which would make it a much greater atmosphere than what it's been. I've been there now 2 or 3 times for Rowdies games, and there's very few people there. It's very quiet.
Yeah.
I'm consistently the loudest one when I go with my friends, but we also get like a little, we get a little rowdy over there. We'll have a good time. And, yeah, so we've had a blast over there, but for the sake of the league and this club, I wish it would kind of drift off to being more independent.
Yeah. The only
Yeah,
thing that might save them, though, this year is obviously potential loans from DC United. Other than
yeah,
that, I really don't know that they have. I think that they've possibly gotten worse
yeah.
in terms of a roster. So,
But they did pick up Florian Villa, which I think is a really interesting pickup, by the way. And we didn't mention him. That's just kind of random for me. I don't know how this 31-year-old, who's kind of a veteran of USL, and a really solid central midfielder, attacking midfielder, gets sent out to Loudoun United. That's kind of weird for me, I think. Again, 31 years old, has a lot of experience in the USL level. Even played a couple seasons for Red Bulls in the Major League Soccer level. So I'm kind of interested in how he ended up over there, but I don't know. Maybe he plans on working his way up to DC United over there. Side note, I will be pissed and I will punch someone if Connor Antley ends up at Loudoun United at
yes,
some point this year. By the way, I'm just going to throw that out there because
fair
he's on a
point.
different level from all of these people I'm looking at. Yeah, and they lost my favorite players on their squad, Aiden
Yep.
Rocha to Colorado Springs, I believe, and Chris Hagart went out to Norway. So no more of that. Yeah, unfortunate for them, but I don't know. I don't really care about them that much, so we move on.
There we go. All right. The next one that we have is Detroit City. Going through the roster here, I really don't see that much improvement. They have a new manager, Danny Dicchio. I have no idea what to make of him as a manager. He was
Me neither.
previously a player from England, but went to Toronto when they joined MLS, and they were a dumpster fire of a team at that time. He was like the best player on the worst team for a long time. So I guess he was in Toronto for a while after that. He was an assistant manager. He was with the academy. He was also an assistant with Sacramento Republic, so maybe he's got a little bit more chops than I'm giving him credit for. But I just don't know what the hell to make of him as a like the head coach. So we're going to see. Maybe, like I said, he's got something to him that I am completely missing out on. That is entirely possible because I have not seen him as a manager anywhere previously before. And it's going to be interesting. I think that they have not improved as a roster, though. They brought in Alex Villanueva, a left back from Orange County, and this guy named Alistair Coote, who is a Scottish youth international that was previously playing in Ireland. No idea what to make of that. No idea. Jordan Doherty came from the Irish League previously, and he looked better than when we had him in his first stint. So maybe this is going to be some guy who's like good enough to win the league himself. I really couldn't say that, but I would also highly doubt it. So it's just I don't see a lot of improvement looking over this roster. And as I said, the manager's a question mark. I don't know what to go with here.
They picked up Elvis Amo. I mean, he's a solid striker. He didn't have fantastic production last year, but he is a guy that based on what I saw from him, could definitely turn it on, like with the right squad around him. When he was at Colorado one season, he scored 13 goals. Went to Hartford last year and single-handedly caused a problem for us in that game against Hartford that we played.
Yes, that's
we
true.
almost lost. He single-handedly put the team on his back and scored a fantastic goal. He's a really, really good player who just I don't think was clicking with Hartford too well. I mean, 5 goals on 27 appearances isn't terrible, but as a striker, I think you're kind of aiming for more. 6'2", a good player, a good player. And, I think he just kind of needs the right setting around him to succeed. I don't know if he has that with Detroit.
Right.
Matt Sheldon is a great fullback they picked up this offseason as well. He's a kind of veteran of the USL as well. Has played around several other teams. I think he's the one with the YouTube channel, right? Or am I making that up?
I don't know.
Anyway, I think this guy has a YouTube channel. I've watched a couple of videos. Maybe it's him, maybe it's someone else. Point being, he's a veteran of the USL, 31 years old. Played with Charleston, Hartford, Tulsa. So I don't really know what to make of this team. I think if Elvis somehow gets hot, they can cause some damage because it seems like he might have to carry this team in the attack. They still have this guy, Nate Steinwasser, a great goalie, who's kind of, I think, fallen off slightly in the past couple seasons from his kind of, era of, he had a bit of like an aura, like Evan Laura almost, where he was just like stopping everything for a little bit. And then I think he fell off slightly, but I don't really know what to make of this team. I just don't imagine they're causing too much damage, to be honest, but we'll have to keep an eye out on Amo. I think he might be there, he might have to put the team on the back if they have any chance of doing much damage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's ultimately what it's going to turn into, I think, is if they make some type of run, it's going to be one individual who's like just having a lights out season. But otherwise, maybe Danny Dicchio. We'll throw it out there, but I don't know yet for the Northgard people. Maybe this is going to be a bit of a downer season too.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next team, the Miami FC. Shockingly, this seeming vanity project of a club is not looking that strong. I'm going over their roster, and it is not a full roster for sure. I can only imagine that they are going to bring in a couple more players because it doesn't even look like 20 is on this team. But it is certainly worse than last year from February 15th of 2024. There's no name that stands out on this roster to me as someone who is a problem, who is particularly strong. If I'm ticking off the 5 people who show up there, I shouldn't be so harsh on them, I guess, but it'd be nicer if we had, like a real rival here. It's just unfortunately the case that that's not what this team is. The only other thing that I have to point to is the coaching staff. The head coach is Antonio Notarino, former Italy senior national team player. Like within the last couple years, he was playing with them. Well, I guess in 2012 was his last cap. But the point is, he was in Serie A only a couple years ago. He played with Palermo when they were in the Serie A. They're not now. He played with Milan. He was with Orlando City for a while. It's just weird, but either way, that's the situation there. And obviously, we talked about this previously. Ariel Martinez is an assistant coach. So regardless of anything else, I do wish him the best of luck, not against our team. I really don't know what they're going to be able to make with this roster. And it's going to be hard to do that.
I can't really name a single player on that team, to be honest. That being said, I'm going over their transfer recap with shout out USL Tactics. I feel like we mention him a lot on this show. He kind of carries everything we do. He doesn't even know it. Andrew Booth seems like an interesting central midfielder. I don't know. I'm just going to shout him out. He had a pretty good run with Charleston. Was also a champion in USL League One with Greenville. And I plays for Miami. He played for Florida International, FIU, down in Miami. So he's kind of going back home for him. Pretty cool. I don't know. I just wanted to shout him out. He looks like an interesting player. I don't really know what else to make of this squad. They signed a good center back in Dalton Knutson, by the way. He's a great player as well. Had a great season with I'm going to fact check myself before I get this wrong. With South Georgia Tormenta and then Union Omaha before that. I remember time at Union Omaha because during that 2020 season, he was included in like that FIFA tournament that we used to be running online with like USL or whatever. So I think I played against him once, which was pretty fun. Good to see him kind of making a step up into the USL Championship, but I don't really know how it's going to work out for him over there. This Miami squad is made up of a bunch of random signings, to be honest, from like some random overseas signings. Like we just don't really know. Again, they could be really good, kind of like Jordan Doherty. Like they're coming from relatively random leagues, a bunch of these guys. But Ariel Martinez and his coaching staff, have a pretty tough challenge ahead of them to like bring these very random group of players together and compete. I don't know. I might put them below Detroit City, to be honest.
I would definitely do that. These are not supposed to be in that order, but you're right. They would be below Detroit City.
Okay, I thought these were like in order from like worst to best in this tier.
I did it in some order that was not geographical, but I think it was looking at the map and going in some weird order that I now have completely lost because that doesn't make sense at the moment. But yeah, I forget exactly what the hell I did.
Okay. Well, if we're power ranking them, I'm putting Loudoun last and Miami right above them. Detroit probably above Miami, and then this next team I think would go above them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The next team is North Carolina FC. The big question here is effectively, can they carry their winning form into what is probably going to be a pretty big step up? They won USL League One last year, and that was through the playoff system. I don't remember if they won the league or not. Carlos, I don't know if you remember that, but no. Okay, so, but they did win in the playoffs, and they obviously won the league overall. So there you go. Anyway, moving on to the roster, they have most of the same roster that they went through last year with. There are some notable improvements, though. So I do want to highlight those. Paco Craig, that should be a name that all of us at the Rowdies fandom are aware of. He was a longtime player for Louisville City, longtime player for the Miami FC, and he comes back to I guess the East Coast again, and we'll see him lining up in North Carolina. So that I think is an automatic improvement in their back line. He is regularly a very good defender in this league. He will most likely be partnered with Lamar Batista. Lamar Batista was with San Antonio last year, made 24 appearances, so obviously no slouch. San Antonio is known for their defending, and I think that they will have, at least in those two, a good backline partnership. I want to highlight Evan Conway, who was another player with San Diego Loyal. He was not the most scoring player that you'll ever see, but 19 goals and 64 appearances is nothing to slouch at. That's not the phrase, but you guys know what I'm talking about here.
What is
there
the phrase?
is
nothing to laugh at. Nothing. I don't know.
The last one that I wanted to say is Ja'Cory Hayes, who was also with San Antonio last year. 28 appearances, no goals for him, but he is a midfielder, so he's mostly going to be the guy setting up goals as opposed to scoring them, and he is nothing to sneeze at.
Is that the phrase?
Yes, nothing to sneeze at. I finally got it out of my gunked up soccer filled head. But yeah, so those were a couple of players that I wanted to highlight. But again, it is a step up. If they're using a lot of the roster that they were using last year, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they can or can't, maybe in certain cases, adapt to, it's not going to be like jumping from the USL League One to the Premier League or even to MLS, but it's still going to be faster. The players in the USL Championship are paid more because they are, expected to do more. So I am interested to see exactly what that leads to for them. And also, though, I still wish them, good luck. Again, not against us, but it's good to see a team, self promote, because it's the only thing we can do in America. And I think that's they're challenging themselves to go and better themselves. And I guess there are a couple of other guys from around the team where they played in different places in USL or MLS Next Pro. So honestly, they could put something together. I just don't know how ready all of them will be to do it, because it seems like a lot of them are doing the step up as opposed to, a step over to another
Yep.
team in USL Championship.
There's a former Rowdy on this squad, James. Do you know who it is?
Oh, Akira Fitzgerald.
There it is. Akira Fitzgerald, one of my favorite random goalies of all time, is also he was actually with what was known as the Railhawks before he came to the Rowdies, and now he's back in North Carolina. And I know some of their fans that have been around for a bit were pretty happy to see that, because they liked him when he was back with them when they were the Railhawks. So that's pretty cool. Good for him, Akira Fitzgerald. I'm sure he will. Actually, I don't really know much about this Jake McGuire guy, so I don't know if he'll be competing, if that starting spot's guaranteed. Do you know anything about a Jake McGuire, James?
I remember him, oddly enough, from the youth national team, I think,
Really?
for the U.S. But either way, he was with a couple of different teams, and then last year he was actually with the Miami. I don't know if he was even their starting goalkeeper, but
Yeah.
it'll be between him and Akira Fitzgerald, who was, I believe he was like the number one keeper in the USL League One last season. Yes, because he
Huh.
was with Richmond Kickers. So this is another guy who's making the step up. And again, I think that all of these guys could be put into a good team. I just don't know if it's all going to work out in the first year when you're bringing several of these guys up for their first year in the USL Championship. Hopefully for them, the Paco Craigs, the Lamar Batistas, the Evan Conways, the Ja'Cory Hayes, they can kind of shepherd them into what life is like in the USL Championship. And if that's the case, then, they do have a lot of players who have a lot of upside, I would say. I just don't know if they can put it all together just yet.
Totally. Also, random, former North Carolina FC player, Gustavo Fernandez. I was keeping an eye out for him to see if he makes it as like a depth piece for the Rowdies. I just realized I haven't heard anything about him.
Yeah,
Transfer
he doesn't
Market
appear to
says,
be on this roster either.
yeah, Transfer Market says he joined Chattanooga Red Wolves.
Ugh.
I don't know. I might have missed that entirely. I don't know if Transfer Market's that accurate, but it usually is. So, fun fact: Leo Fernandez's brother, by the way, if you don't know that for whatever reason. Yeah. Okay. James, next team. We got two more to break down here briefly.
Yeah, the next team, this is going to be a relatively easy one. Hartford, they have an improved roster and a better coach, but so far it's just been the case that Hartford always struggle. So last year, they had Tab Ramos for, I believe, the long portion of the year, who was the manager, and then they gave it to Omid Namazi when they got rid of Ramos. Now, I will just go out on a limb and say that I don't think Tab Ramos has really ever shown himself to be a particularly good manager. I don't know if somehow this is going to get back to him, but Tab, you're a great player. I don't think that I've seen anything that shows me that he's been a very good manager, because I watch a lot of the youth national teams, and anyway, it just seemed like maybe he wasn't the best for that one either. Moving on from that, they brought in a new manager this year who has proven success in the USL Championship level. That is Brendan Burke. He was previously with Bethlehem Steel, Colorado Springs Switchbacks during their best ever, moments. And then last year he was an assistant with Houston Dynamo. So actually, I guess his place was probably taken by Juan Guerra, because he moved to Houston Dynamo when he left Phoenix, didn't he? So that's an interesting little move. But regardless of all of that, he now moves to Hartford, and he is a player or a coach who, like I said, has some proof of concept at the USL Championship level. I think that means good things for Hartford fans. However, again, it struggles. They usually struggle, and I'm not entirely sure how he can just put this team together. They have a couple of relatively big signings that I would highlight. So Joey
More than a few.
Joey Akpunonu, he is on loan from FC Cincinnati. He is a guy that just joined FC Cincinnati from the college ranks last year. He didn't get a lot of playing time, so I don't actually know, how good he is, but he seems like a promising young player if he can be given the right place to play. Romario Williams is a player that you have been talking about, Carlos.
Yeah.
He was unfortunately not signed by the Rowdies, but 15 goals and 29 appearances for Colorado Springs last year. Again,
That's
nothing
a
to
big pickup.
sneeze at. Yeah. And then Anderson Asiedu is a player who left Birmingham under circumstances that we learned last year are weird. We don't know what they are, but he just left kind of in the middle of the, right before their playoff run. So
yeah,
that was odd. Pickup. Yeah. But either way, that's a good pickup. And it's going to be interesting to see how he works it out. The last couple of players that I wanted to highlight are they don't have a goalkeeper that many of us would know about. If you guys remember from last season when we played Hartford, they had a sickness that ran through the whole team. They had to bring in an amateur goalkeeper to play for them for 2 or 3 games.
A decent game too.
Yeah, he did. But they brought in this goalkeeper. This is the most random one I've seen, I think, so far this offseason. Renan Ribeiro from Brazil. Okay, so originally, a couple Brazilian teams moves to Portugal. In Portugal, he moves to one of the best teams in Portugal, one of the top 3. That's Sporting. He makes 11 appearances for that team. Well, 11 and 27. So let's say 38 appearances on loan. And when he joined them, but that was effectively he was a backup because he was there for roughly 4 years. So he was a backup at Sporting. He left Sporting to go to this club, Al Ahly, and they were in Saudi Arabia. No appearances for them. I guess he's a backup at these 2 teams, and now he's at Hartford. No idea what to make of this player at all, folks. I've got nothing on this guy, but the other player that
he's going to be the goalkeeper of the year.
That'd be honestly, it could happen, and it'd be so funny. But we can't predict that for now unless it's
that's my official prediction. That's my official prediction right now.
There we go, folks. Write it down. Carlos has the goalkeeper of the year prediction.
Renan Ribeiro, goalkeeper of the year.
And the last player that I wanted to highlight was Marlon Hairston. He was a guy who was around MLS for several years. Just never he always seemed like a backup choice. He was only really a starter when he first joined the league with Colorado Rapids. But he's dropping down a level to play as probably a midfielder, a central midfielder. Yeah. And I think that he's going to be a good player at this level. I don't know how he ended up at Hartford, but there you go. Those are going to be the biggest players that I think they have. And again, it's going to be, can Brendan Burke put all this together? He has a lot of former players from Colorado Springs Switchbacks back here. And Carlos, I think there's one other player that you might want to highlight on this roster.
There's a couple.
Okay. I thought that you were mainly focusing on the former Rowdy.
There's there's 2. We got.
Who am I missing?
Well, I think the one of lesser.
You're right.
Thomas Van Kaziel. Thomas Van Kaziel is a center back now for Hartford Athletic. But the other one is Jordan Scarlett.
Right.
And that's a big pickup. Obviously, Jordan Scarlett had a fantastic run with us. He didn't really make too much news last year. But now he's with Hartford, and I think he will do well with them because he's a dog. He's a fantastic player, and I can't imagine he won't play well. Let me just wrap up my thoughts on Hartford by saying this. This is a good-looking team. Like, on paper, this is a team that can do some damage because there's some weird question mark spots, but I mean, you're talking about one of the best strikers in the league, Romario Williams.
That's true.
You have a pretty good-looking back line, and Jordan Scarlett isn't even projected to start on this back line, which I think is kind of crazy. I think he should start over Van Kaziel, but USL Tactics has Van Kaziel in this projected lineup over Scarlett, which I disagree with that. But okay, so you have Scarlett, you have a fantastic midfielder that you haven't mentioned in Enoch Mushigalusa, another fantastic midfielder, an attacking midfielder in Marcus Epps, former USF guy who ended up in Hartford. Again, you mentioned some of these other players already. Buckmaster is a fantastic fullback, Reese Buckmaster. He's going to do well on the wing for them. This is a team that has some pretty big names, and I genuinely think this team could actually do a bit of damage if the coaching staff manages to put it all together. And that's the big challenge because there's a bunch of random players in here. You're kind of bringing it together. That's the hard part, obviously. Much easier said than done. And they keep Danny Barrera, who is a great attacking midfielder.
He is, right. He's always very good.
So this is honestly a good-looking team. I think they're kind of stacked in the midfield, in the attacking midfield, especially with Mushigalusa, Marcus Epps. You also have Asiedu, and again, Danny Barrera. They're kind of stacked in the central midfield. I'm really curious to see how they play that out, because I think they have like their bulk of talent is concentrated there in the central midfield. Also with, one of the best strikers in the league, Mari Williams, up top. So I could go on about this team because I think this is a really, really interesting team for this season. So just keep an eye on this Hartford squad. I don't imagine like they are elite, like they're winning a title, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make a really, really good run, because
Okay.
this is a good looking team, honestly.
Okay. Well, the next team is the one where I thought I might eat my words, but if it turns into this one, then
I think it could be Hartford. Yeah, I genuinely do think it could be Hartford.
if it turns into this one, Carlos, I think we all know, though, the guy who's really going to make me eat my words, obviously, is Renan Ribeiro.
Yeah. A goalkeeper of the year, by the way. He will be starting in the final of the CONCACAF Champions League with Hartford sooner rather than later. And James will be looking back and being like, man, I should have trusted Carlos. I don't know. The USL has a knack for making like random players elite. So we'll see what happens. Okay.
It's going to be interesting because I don't know where do they even get film on this guy is my question. But
I love random USL signings. It's my favorite thing to talk about. I could talk about it even longer, but James, one last team. Let's jump into it. We're already hitting the hour mark, man. Like we have so much to talk about. We're cramming it in here.
Yeah.
Last team, take it away, James.
All right. Well, the last team, this is the one where I thought I might eat my words originally. As we said, maybe I am already wrong for that, but it is Pittsburgh. After quite an exodus, I would say, this offseason, I just don't think things look very good. Right now they need signings. This is another one where I'm not sure the team has 20 players lined up. Now the obvious thing to point out is this. When Bob Lilly is your head coach, there are going to be signings brought in that nobody has heard of that turn into really good players. Last year, one of those players was this guy right out of the University of Michigan. I had seen him play once or twice for Michigan, and he turned into a very good central midfielder. He's gone now, and his name is Mark something. And he was from the University of Michigan, though, and he turned into a pretty good central midfielder for them. But the problem is, usually Pittsburgh are known for their defense, and they have lost all of their defenders. Arturo Ordonez is gone. Nathan Dos Santos is gone. I'm missing other players, but now then you move forward and they're also missing their big strikers from last year too. So they've taken what's that?
You think after like COVID that I know how to unmute myself? They also lost one of the best goalies I think in the league, in Jamali Waite, who is also a Jamaican national team guy at this point. Like he's fantastic, and he's gone as well. So I'm including him in like the defensive unit kind of exodus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important to highlight because Jamali Waite was a big reason that they were so successful last season, without a doubt. So if we look at the Pittsburgh Riverhounds roster right now, I mean, you have a couple of players that stand out in certain ways. I would say Danny Griffin is usually one of their better players. I would say Conrado Forbes is always a very good player for Pittsburgh Riverhounds. That guy has over almost 200 league appearances for Pittsburgh in this day and age. And that's crazy. At the USL Championship level, that's crazy. But the other thing to say is he's turning 36 in May. How long can he keep it up? Probably long enough for this season. But, that's just something to think about. Goalkeeper, I guess they have this guy, Eric Dick. I'm not calling him that. That's his name. And he was with Minnesota United. He was with Minnesota United 2 last year. According to what I'm looking at, only made 3 appearances. I don't know who's going to be their goalkeeper right now. They have 3 players that I'm kind of interested in. Jackson Walty, I saw him play for Pittsburgh in college. That is the University of Pittsburgh, not Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He's a good player. I thought that he was pretty good. Sean Suber is another recent college graduate, went to University of Coastal Carolina. No, it was a different Carolina. It wasn't Coastal. Either way, I thought he was a pretty good central defender. Maybe he turns into the new Arturo Ordonez, who was somebody that they signed from college the year before. I really can't say that right now. He was with MLS Next Pro somebody last year. So we'll see. And then the last player that I wanted to highlight is Bradley Sample, because I don't know if that's a person or if they just said, how you get like a DMV like sample. I'm assuming that's probably a real player, but
Bradley last name.
Exactly. That was just a little thing I wanted to highlight. So yeah, Pittsburgh Riverhounds almost certainly will be making several more signings, especially when all the guys who were taken in the draft or who were not taken in the draft have stopped, trying to make an MLS roster. And they're like, well, okay, I got to go make a roster somewhere. Pittsburgh are going to snap up 3, 4, 5 of those guys maybe, and they
Yeah.
could be very good players. But right now, this team that I'm looking at, they don't got it. They don't got it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a weird looking situation. I don't know why if you're Pittsburgh, like you're so close to kind of putting it all together and winning that title. Like
And then
I
they
don't
all
know.
did.
Like they dipped. Like I would be building on that hard. I'd be trying to keep obviously like, it's easier said than done to keep together a team in the USL. But unfortunate. I think Charleston to a lesser extent, kind of same thing. I was figuring they'd just keep everybody and just go for it again, but no. Okay, James. That was tier 2, Eastern Conference. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. It's time to run through extra time. Okay. Extra time. Tune into our RBLR Deportes show, by the way, if you want all this Tampa Bay sports content in Spanish. If you're trying to learn Spanish, if you speak Spanish, hop on over there. It's a great, great time. As well as opposed to Nick Moon, we have a Tampa Bay Sun program. Obviously, that beautiful, beautiful stadium breaking ground.
Yeah,
Stadium
there's a
situation
ton
over
of
there.
Sun news out there right now.
Yeah, tons of stuff to talk about over there. They are officially breaking ground on building what will be the temporary home of this great, great team on the campus of Blake High School on the water in downtown Tampa. Really, really cool situation. They're taking what's already a really nice like football field for high school, and they're going to make it into a really nice setting for professional soccer.
It's literally down the street from the old house I used to live in that I will not be
Really.
able to go to when the season starts. So that's a bummer.
There you go. Yeah, so that's gonna be really cool. Be sure to check them out and check out the Tim Baseline program at RBLR Sports. James, take over this next one. You want to talk about the CONCACAF W Gold Cup coming up?
Yeah, as we talked about previously, the CONCACAF W Gold Cup, I believe that is starting next week, but all of the preliminary games, the 3 remaining preliminary games to see who takes those final 3 qualifying spots, will be Saturday the 17th. Now, Saturday the 17th, there is another game, and we'll get to that in a second. But if you do not have Rowdy season tickets and you're looking for soccer to watch, please tune into that. We will be supporting Puerto Rico here at RBLR Sports because we were able to interview Puerto Rican national team player Madison Cox. I actually saw on Twitter that they have all gathered. They're getting ready. They're trying to prepare for a huge game against Haiti, which is a very good team on the women's side. But yeah, those last 3 games will take place all on Saturday, and then the tournament should start up, I believe, next Wednesday. So
Nice.
good luck to Madison. Good luck to Puerto Rico. And good luck to all the women out there who are competing at the first ever Gold Cup on the women's side. I think that that's actually pretty awesome that CONCACAF has finally got this going. The next thing is Nations League on the women's side.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen, folks. Let's
Better
make it
late
happen.
than never. I mean, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
it's taking this long to
exactly.
get W Gold Cup going. That's absurd. Okay. The other game James was talking about. Boom. We're gonna run through this. Okay. If you have season tickets, which you should, and if you don't, go get them. This Saturday, your Tampa Bay Rowdies are doing their season opener party in a preseason game against Montreal. That is the Montreal of Major League Soccer coming down to Al Lang in what will be a fun game. What I'm sure will be a fun time. I'm sure you'll get a look at the new jerseys at that matchup. I had a great, great opportunity to be there for that just a couple seasons ago. It was so fun. It was against Tormenta. Sad that that preseason derby doesn't exist anymore against
Yeah.
Tormenta. This will be a fun one. Please, please head out there if you can. You absolutely should. It's going to be fun for everybody. So go and check that out. Saturday against Montreal. Get to the season opener party for season ticket holders.
And
James,
free food.
free food. I'm sure an opportunity to mingle with the players, at least in a small way. I'm sure like they're going to be around to chat with. So it's going to be a really cool opportunity. Go over there, take some cool pictures, take the family with your season tickets, and just have a good time. Get a look at these new Rowdies. Tell me what they look like. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. Just take pictures, have a good time. Okay,
And
James,
let us know.
let us know how it goes. Now it's time to wrap up. We talked about so much in this hour and 10 minutes. We talked about the Rowdies news, the hoops, Connor Antley, Nick Moon talking to them, the preseason games, these like second tier Eastern Conference teams that will surely prove you wrong, I'm sure, when the season kicks off. Tampa Bay Sun, CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup. And now it's time to shout out my own Twitter because I'm going to tell you to follow me at CarlosTPA10 on Twitter is where you can find me. tweeting about everything. Georgetown basketball has its last kind of big game tomorrow against Villanova. I'm going to be there. It's going to be so much fun. James, what's going on your Twitter?
I don't remember what I was posting about last, and almost certainly it was rowdy stuff. But if you would like to check me out, I am at RBLR James K.
And of course, follow at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, anywhere. Like James said, we're there. Like our podcast on wherever you listen to this podcast to. Use hashtag AskRBLR if you want to shoot us some content, some stuff to talk about, some questions from this preseason game this weekend.
Yeah.
Let us know, please. We want to engage with all your stuff online, and we're going to see what we can talk about next week when we talk about the other Eastern Conference teams and this preseason game from this upcoming weekend. What am I missing?
I think that's everything. Obviously, tune in when you can.
It was a short one, hour, 10 minutes. That all being said, get to the season ticket holder event this weekend. I'm sure it's going to be a blast, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time hanging with all your Rowdies friends, see the New Jersey. Oh, I'm so excited. Guys, it's almost time for the season to kick off. That being said, come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.